yourself. To me, partner dancing is all about understanding yourself and then being able to take that into understanding your partner, and that also goes with our lead and our follow. Understanding the other one really helps us understand the other one. So we're going to look at a little bit of that today as well. So what I would like you all to do, we're just going to start, come on to the floor, and we'll just get into our lines that you would do if you're going to start your...
So with a partner?
With a partner?
No, I think we'll just start on your own.
Just a bit of
Space,
space, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, just find some space.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid, I don't bite, so you can come forward. Nice one, Holly. Okay. So as I said, with the partner dancing, what I learned in my years of doing ballroom dancing, I started when I was 6 years old, and my two oldest brothers are ballroom dancers as well. We've all done it all our lives, so it's been a long time in the making. I started teaching when I was about early 20s, and it's been very much a journey of learning about relationship, partnership, connection, and realising that it all starts with me. So what I want to start with is actually just bringing it back into yourself, so that we bring back into how much we want to do with the action. We're also going to bring it into our framework, because this is the part that allows us to connect. You know, we may have this, in the ballroom dancing, you'll notice it's still quite postural, and everyone's very, there's a lot of this structure and this full-onness through here, which is lovely for ballroom dancing, but in the modern jive, it feels a lot more casual, feels a lot more soft, and a lot more about the connection between two people in that way. So we're going to also apply that. So what I want to start doing, all of you would have started your very beginning of learning modern jive and just the basic transfer of weight, which is pretty much the fundamental of all movement is transfer of weight. So we've all got that, and whether or not I pick my feet right up off the floor or not, it's all the same. We all get hips, we get knees, and we get the feet. So on a spectrum, and this is where you choose for yourself how much you want to do, so that it's your call, so that you can use this to help you feel better, you can use it to explore your own movement, and then you can bring that to the partnership, because that's the whole point, isn't it? Bringing it together with somebody else. So if we can become strong and self-aware in our own movement and our own connection and what affects us and where things sit within us, we've got a lot more to bring to the partnership, and it makes it so easy to dance with somebody else when I know where I'm at, or I know what my impact is, and then we're talking about lead and follow. So we'll start with just that basic thing. If I just pick my feet up, and I eliminate hips, you'll feel the need for the knees. So it's just connecting the action, but if I don't do my knees and I have straight legs, you'll see there's a lot of hip going on and it feels a bit weird. Okay, so everything to me comes always back down to how you walk down the street. So that's been the fundamental learning for me. How do my legs, how do my hips, how do my feet, how do they all work when I just want to walk down the street? How do I then apply that to what I do in the dance studio? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is get everybody, as they lift the heel, instead of pulling the whole foot up, what I want you to do is just lift the heel right up to the toe, get the sense of the knee in relation to that. So if I just peel one foot when I go to here, it shows me how much action you can actually get out of peeling that whole foot up the floor right up into the point of the toe. So all I'm doing is making sure that whole complete action happens through my feet. So I can go through that whole action. So that is taking it from picking the whole foot up to peeling the whole foot up and peeling it back down. What that gives you when you peel the whole foot up and down, and then you start to bring in the feeling of how the knee and how the hip work together, start to get a sense of how full you can make the action. And then again, that's up to you. I might just want to go to here. I might want to go all the way through to here. The more I work that action, the more I can get out of it myself. Okay, so you can see it's then up to you to practice how much you want to do that, or how little, how much you want to feel that action. What this gives me primarily is fluidity. And when I see modern jive, I see fluidity. I see the really strong need to keep everything fluid, to keep it flowing, to keep it so that that movement is constant. This is going to allow, particularly for your slow ones, more movement. So you can see here, the knee that's with the raised foot or the raised heel, that knee has a direct relationship to my opposite hip. They are very much connected to each other. So if you're walking, if I was going to take it back to walking down the street, as I walk through here, there's a hip and that knee happens. If everybody just took a couple of steps and you feel your hips, you actually feel them move. Feel how your hips move with the relationship to the other knee. You're walking on, so you get a sense of how things connect, how things actually flow, that joining between the knee and the hip, the knee and the hip, the knee and the hip. Okay, that's going to give you that beautiful fluidity. Because what I really want to do, as I said earlier, is apply that to your slow dances in particular. And focus on those today because I'm focusing on the rumba walk action with this. Okay. So another thing when you're walking, you've got one straight leg and one bent leg essentially. So if I was to walk, like I did before, when I took my knees out of the equation and I had two straight legs, you can see the knee that we have one straight leg, one bent leg off in the rumba. So that's where my flow comes through from, is letting the hip and the knee. So you can do two things here. We're going to walk onto the toes and we're also going to walk onto the heels. It's the same action, but it just shows you, again, a few options. I can walk onto my heel or I can walk onto my toe. So the idea is to be aware of the knee that's going to move through. So the knee that's moving through into your next step is what I want to really keep nice and moving, nice and fluid. The other thing I want to do with this, to allow more hip action, is if I use my knees and my hips more and I keep my shoulders down, I can get more action on my hips. Okay, so this is bringing the hips, and if I stay without that, this we can get fast music. So see, I'm not using my hips quite as much because I've got to keep moving. So if I'm wanting to get more, I want to stay almost like something that's a bit hula-y. See, I've got that hula where I get more of the hip action and more of the knees, more of the feet by not raising up. It's kind of like your fast songs. Okay, this then applies to how we are connected through the top of our body. Okay, so if I've got this action happening underneath, and it's about my knees, it's about my feet, it's about, as I peel that foot up, feel yourself sit into the other hip. So if I've got, God, it sounds so Kiwi, I was like, ha! But I don't heard that, I heard it ringing in my ears. My hips. Okay, so when I get this, if I peel off that foot, I'll go with my whichever one you want. So I'm going to peel that foot up. As I peel up through that foot and get to the toe, feel yourself just sinking into the opposite hip. And that is what just allows, that's a position that we're constantly in that we probably don't think about. So if I swap it over, and I think about staying quite centred in my hips and lower down, I'm going to peel that foot down, peel the other foot up and go into the other hip. So I'm transferring through. I'm also letting the heel and the hips and the knees all work together. But you'll notice I'm not doing this. See if I do that, see how my hips are a little bit eliminated from the action? Because I can either go up and down, which is more of your fast jive, but if I want to fill it out, you can see how I'm swinging through by, as I put this foot back down and I peel it through, I wait for the heel to get down and I peel the other one up. So I'm staying in the lower centre of gravity and staying more into my hip action. So if I change, I want to swap the heels and peel the other foot and let your hip and your knee come into that position. Okay, so that's something, if you want, I could do it as minimal as this and it's the same action. So again, you choose what feels right to you, how far you want to take it, or how little you want to take it. It's then up to you to explore getting a little bit more out of your own movement. The other thing with this, when you come together, what a question? It's always good, like questions.
If I exaggerate it,
Yes.
it's quite painful after sight.
Yes,
Don't do so far.
that's a great question, because what I want to do with my hips as well, to keep it really in keeping with the health of the body and the joints, is to feel like I go down. So I just want to go down into the joint, not out into the joint, which is again fantastic. Please feel free to ask questions, everybody.
Can you demonstrate from time to time on a 90-degree angle, because we can't really see what's happening?
Yes, sure. So if I like this way, yes, so you can see that there. So see here, it's down as opposed to out. Very different sense of that. The joints are designed to not have that pressure being pushed out. So it's very much a downward feeling. And as I go down, I can then actually allow the knee, so if this was say my right hip that I'm settling into, it's what we term as a settled action. As I settle down into this right hip, I can actually let my left knee extend forward and rise through the foot so that that action is going down. So see, that keeps it through more of that position as it does of that. So it's not a swinging side to side, and then you get the action between the foot and the hip and the other knee. So it's very much a downward action. But again, it's a great point, because do it to the level where you are at. There's no point trying to force it into being further down the line, because it's all the same. The more you do it, the more you connect the dots in your own body, which is your own personal journey, the more you can get out of it. But the fundamental action stays the same, whether I'm at this level of it or whether I'm at this level of it. It all comes from that same fundamental. Yes, Matt?
Quick question. Are you letting the heel touch the ground before lifting the other heel, or is there a point where you're both?
It's good too, because you could do both. You could do either way. If I wanted to get a bit more squeeze, I could have it so that I did that in the middle. See how my two heels were off then, and I had a squeeze in the centre. So I could do it that way, or I could put the heel down before I lift the other one. You can actually do it either way. And again, that's up to each person to really feel the journey within themselves as to how they like it to feel. Because some may like it having that little bit of a squeeze in the middle, gets a little bit more out of it, gets a little bit more hip action, gets a little bit more pelvic action. Again, you can see I'm still eliminating that. That's for your slow modern jivers, that's I want to take out that and bring it into being underneath. So you can squeeze as much or as little out of it as you want to do.
Vanessa, what do you mean by the squeeze? What are you squeezing?
Oh, good question. Yeah, great questions, everybody. The squeeze to me is a sense of, it's not a contraction, because I'm very much not about things being tight or being contracted. I want it to feel expanded. So the squeeze, if I was going to do that, would be a sense of just having the fact that I'm holding a position through my ankles, probably is where the squeeze would happen through there. I would think of sort of just squeezing the ankles together. But I don't want to tighten. That's the thing. I find with dancing, as soon as I get tight, I just feel stuck. I feel rigid. So that squeeze is through the legs, it's through the ankles. So it's a sense of having them together probably is what I would mean by a squeeze, is thinking of things being together. So there's that togetherness, which kind of links in with what Matt said about together through the feet here and down, or do I do one, put one down, then lift the other? You'll notice it has different places that you'll feel the togetherness. Yeah.
And when you're distinguishing between squeeze and tighten,
Yes.
how do you make that distinction in your body?
Very good question too. It comes down to me feeling that something can be tight, but it can also be a contracted energy. To me is when it comes right in and it squeezes and it tightens. So what I want to have is even if I'm doing something through here where I'm holding it, I still want to feel like things are free. I still your earring does not want to be in your ear. Yeah, I still want to feel like everything's free. So I don't want to ever feel, and I practice this a lot, I don't want to feel like anything that goes, it's exhausting, and it just makes it hard, And as soon as you do that, when you bring them into partnership, you can't feel anything. If I ever do that, I know that something's gone wrong with what I'm doing, because I'm like, oh my God, I just feels worse. So everything wants to always feel, like even through this, through that sense of going down through my hips and using my feet, I would probably liken a squeeze to feeling that when you squeeze something, you can kind of feel every ounce of it. You can feel the whole, you're trying to connect everything, and it's squeezed. The whole thing is together. It's more of that sense that the whole thing is together through here. If I was going to think of squeezing the feet, it's more about bringing them together in an inward kind of an action. Because if I really get particular about the word squeeze, everything's coming into the centre. Everything's coming in and being brought right in. So that's probably a more apt way of describing it, because I don't want to contract, but I do want to keep everything in. So, yeah.
Yeah, follow up on
Yep.
that. When you're talking about contraction and expansion,
Yes.
is that a state of mind, or is that something that you have, is it a state of mind about your body, or is it something that you produce in your body?
Both. All of it.
Yeah.
All of it. That's a very good question too. And that is about being very much, and if I put it into a nutshell, it's about being on your own journey with your own personal, how you feel, where you're at, what it feels like to you. What do I do when I feel my hip here and I have that? How does that impact? That's about having essentially bringing a state of mind and to always have yourself open. So if I applied that to, say, a step that I wanted, I would want to make sure that as soon as I started to not feel free, or I started to grab, or I started to get squeezing and holding on like that, I would want to go, why? What have I lost that's made me go, well, I can't feel anymore? Yeah, that. So that then becomes your personal journey of going, oh, I got to that bit in that step, and when I do this, I've lost a feeling of freedom, and I've lost a feeling of being in the flow, because something's grabbed or shut down or disconnected. So it's a tricky one, because it's all layers and all levels. If I wanted to apply that physically, I would want to make sure that everything again is about my connection to myself, my connection to my body, my connection to my feet. How do I affect me, and then how do I affect my partner? So the other thing I'm going to bring that into is an awareness of these lat muscles that are basically such an important part of connection to ourselves. Because if you look at your arm, which is the part where most of the time we connect it through our hands, through our arms, through this is the connection to other. I want to show the other where I am. I want to give them my body weight in a really helpful way, so that they can feel where I am, they know where I am, but I don't need to be gripped. Because I find that as soon as my hand gets all grippy, it's another one of the contraction. If I grip and if I grab, I can't feel anything anymore. All I feel is grabbed and tight, and which contracts me, which makes me feel heavy. So for me, that essentially, when I contract, or when I have things that have gone tight and shut sort of down and gone like this, I just can't feel anymore. I'm not connected anymore. So it's always about staying connected. So these lats are what connect our own arm to our own body. So therein you've got your first piece of unity in your own selves, then that applies to partnership. So with these lat muscles, I just want to have them, I just want to be aware of them. Because everybody's going to feel them differently. You can say, one person can say activate your lats this way, and another can say activate your lats this way, and we don't want to get into a head about it, but what I do want to do is be aware. I want to be aware of when those muscles, they are what connects my own hand to my own body, so that I become more of a united dancer. Because if I have got an arm that's just connecting to the partner and I'm not connected to me, it's very hard. You just get pushed and pulled all over the place. Then we tighten, then we grab, then we don't know what we're doing with our feet anymore, and we lose our own connection. So again, it all comes back down to connection of self and understanding how I work, and then how that applies to your partnership. And then you've got the whole lead and follow thing, which is awesome, because it's such a great way to really get a sense of the similarities and the differences, and how you can actually understand both sides and learn more about your own, if you're more of a follower, say, to understand what it is that a lead needs, you have to do a little bit of leading so that you get a sense of the mindset of that. And if I understand the mindset of the lead, then as a follower, I know what it is that actually is required for the lead to get to be well. Because it's just as hard to let yourself be led as it is to be the lead. If I'm going to let myself be led, I need to know where I am. I need to be strong and in a good position so that where that lead goes, they can feel me and they know where I'm at so they can lead me better. So it's got all of that aspect of it. Slightly tangent there. Okay, so we bring that back into the not having a contracted sense of anything. When I want to activate these lats, I want to remain broad across both the front of my body and across the back of my body. So that is another aspect of the expansion. Because if I go like this, if I activate my lats but I don't have a broad across here, I'll go and I'll do that. And that's just too much one way. But if I don't have a broad front, you can see I'll get this as well. So I've either gone too far one way or too far the other way, and both of them contract me and stop me feeling like I've got an expanded. To be expanded to me is feeling free, and also expanded so that I have got control over what I'm doing. So that I'm not expecting my lead to do for me what they can't. Now, I can do for me by making myself really strong and free and available, and I've got my own sense of balance and I've got my own connection. And if your connection to yourself is strong, and you can maintain that connection through movement, because it's all right if I'm standing around, but as soon as I start to dance with someone else, it creates a whole entity in itself. So if I'm strong enough in me, and connected to me enough, then I can give so much more to the partnership. And I can give so much more to the partnership by requiring only of them what is their role to do, not requiring them to push me or pull me around or find the connection in my own body that I've lost. So if I'm talking about this again, and I talked about keeping this nice and broad, I'm also going to keep this broad. So it's both. So it's a sense of having that sense for me makes me feel like I'm open. But I haven't over-opened that way. I haven't over-opened that way. I've just felt myself feel expanded and connected. Then I can do as little or as much of that as I like. I don't have to stand up ballroom dance style at all. I can keep that quite casual, quite lowered underneath, which is where I want to get it connecting into those hips. And if you've got those lats nice and activated through here, they help this whole area stay as one, so I don't have an arm flying around, and I don't have a body that's disconnected from it, so then I don't start pulling and pushing on my partner. So you kind of see all of that just brings it right back down to your own journey. Okay, so I'm going to put that into what I will do with my hands if I'm in a nice lead, what I like to do. And again, this is all just information to take as you will. Leave what does not resonate and just go with what feels right for you and apply it as you see fit. So what I like to do with the hand hold is I'm very much, because of that focus on connection. Connection is an organic state of being. If I do something where I talked about before, if I'm grabbing, all of a sudden I've eliminated the ability for a certain level of flow to happen. And I want to have that flow available all the time. So for me, this hand here, I'm not much of a grabber. I like this to be very light, but I like to maintain quite a free line through into the wrist. So if I'm talking about my activated lats, my hand, see how it goes right through to my hand here? I actually use my fingers more as like a lever, and it sort of ends up having the fleshy part of your fingers as the part that actually connects. So I very rarely, I don't actually like it. I've done this for so many years. I've come to the point where I dislike that much of a connection. So that is my lat being put into my feeling of connection of my own body. being then put into the connection with my partner. So they feel my body, they don't feel my grab. I find the grab really difficult. I think too, when you've got turns and you've got all of this involved, the grab just is just an excess thing that just doesn't need to happen. So this is also, you can do this with yourselves as well. So we'll practice this. If I'm going to bring in this connection that is not about the grab, it's about connection of self through to connection of other without the grab. So if I had this and I took my, whichever hand you want, and you've got the fleshy bit through here, I'm just going to take it to my other hand, I'm going to connect it. You can see here I have no grab. But what I want to do is activate my lats and feel it come into my hand. I can push and pull away through that, and you can see how little movement I'm doing. Literally my fingers, I don't know if you can see it, I'm moving in and out that much. Because the other thing, when you start dancing with someone, I like the sense of not pushing and pulling. I'm not a push-pull person. I don't like that sense of that grab. So what I like to do is move myself. So oftentimes, I'm going to borrow you, Lynn, because I know you. Okay, so come forward through here. So what I want to do, if Liam just stays there, and I'll just show you with this. So if you just keep your hand just exactly as it is without any change, I'm going to do the dancing off of myself. So when I move away, I'm not thinking of going to get myself away. I don't want to push him to move myself away. To me, that's a little bit, I know it's one of the ways that we can do it, if we sort of think of that push-pull lead. The problem with that is I end up pushing at someone else, and that kind of changes their balance for themselves. So what I want to do with this is I want to move myself. That comes from my own lat muscles, my own connection to myself. I'm going to move away. So if Liam just keeps that there, I'm going to move myself away and come back in, and he doesn't have to do anything. I'm doing it myself by just a very subtle change of this. And when I get to here, you'll still notice through here, I've still got that with my hand. I haven't gone into, I didn't go into going into that and going into that. So that becomes a real fight. I don't know if anybody feels like that, but whenever I have to hold on like that, I just end up feeling like I'm in a fight with myself, and then I'm in a fight with my partner. So what I want to do now is if we can all have lead, I don't know who's leads, who's followers, but I'd like to bring this into walking with each other, just doing a few steps in and out, and we're going to swap. So it doesn't actually matter if you're the lead or the follower, because I'm going to get you all to swap anyway. So if we can just find a partner and so we can both be in a lead or a follow state, it does not matter. Just so we can practice this feeling of connection to yourself and feeling of connection to self being connected to somebody else. So what I want you to all feel here, first and foremost, we're just going to get that sense of the lat muscles in. Activate is one word, alive is another word. Just make sure that you feel like it's an expanded sense. You've got a broad chest and a broad back so that everything's expanded. Okay, so what I want to get you to do is I'm just going to get the lead to stay put. So all I want the lead to do is hold your hand with nothing else and let them do it to and fro. Okay? So see how Deb's doing that? She's not doing anything. I'm doing all of it myself. I'm doing all of it so that I can tell how much I need, how much I want to move my hips, how much I want to get that action in it. And what I want you to do is keep feeling your lat muscle going into that squishy part of the hand. So that's the sense. You want to not have any impact on what they're doing, but you still want to move yourself. Nice, so that you get a sense that you don't have to grab, you don't have to hold on, you can just literally extend back and forward. When you go back, move away from your own hand. When you come forward, move to your own hand so you're not pushing and pulling on your partner. You're just keeping it connected to yourself. Focus on the connection you have to yourself rather than the connection to them. Quite a weird initially, you can start to let those knees work as well if you're doing the legs at the moment, let them move through. Try to keep the hand really still, everyone that's doing your lead, so that your follower is purely focusing on how it feels, what they're doing to themselves. Yes, Jane. Okay. Okay, if everyone just wants to look this way, what I want you now to add to that, those of you that are doing the follow, is when you walk back, I want you to take 2 steps back and I want you to really extend into that hip so that you're getting more action out of it. Because that's going to require more connection to yourself. So extend it a little bit so that when you move away from your partner, those of you that are in the follow state, keep the connection to the hand, keep your own connection, extend. You've noticed when I go back, if I just offer a DBM, you'll notice that as I go back in this, my hand is still going too deep. And then when I go 2, I'm not pushing or pulling on deep at all. I'm keeping the connection to me. If I stay, connected to yourself, keep connected to yourself, keep connected to yourself, I then don't need to go, oh, I've got to find deep, where's she, I've got a hand, what am I doing? You know? So it's again, bring it back to you. Bring it back to feeling and holding your connection the whole time. That's the focus. Okay, swap roles. Swap roles. So, those that are following, stay put, don't move your hand, just let the other do their work of it. Feel your lat muscle, and let your hips move so that you're not pushing, you're not pulling, you're not shoving, you're not grabbing. You're connecting to yourself. Stay connected to yourself with it. And that is at whatever level you're at, wherever you're at. Lift your elbow, that's it. So you've given your arm. You've given your arm to your partner almost as well. So there's no push or pull. And then those big yes. So it's purely focusing your connection to yourself. Nice, it's good because I'm not seeing a lot of grabbing or anything. You've got really lovely, nice movement of the cells within it all. Okay, right, let's all come back in because I know you've got dance later today so that you can practice all of that when you do another. So I'm try and throw as much info at you as I can. Okay, so I've got a question over here. Okay, well, great question again. The focus is, in a nutshell, stay connected to yourself. So, because there's a lot we could sort of go down with that, but the main point is still, I've just got to make sure that I don't go away from going, hang on a minute, as I'm connected over here, I'm connected to me. Because you still, that's the great thing with this, no matter if you've got something that has got a lot of energy that comes in, you've still got to maintain your connection to you. And that's the journey that we're all on, because we need to be on that journey if you're going to dance with somebody else. It doesn't matter, if I dance with myself, it's all quite cool and I don't interfere with anybody and I've got elbows that probably people should steer clear of. So when you bring it into partnership with somebody else, the fundamental is knowing you, where you are at. Whether it's a fast move, whether it's I've got a lot of energy that's going to come from it, I've got to make sure I absorb it, but when I say have a little bit of what I've got to do through here, but again I don't go, disconnect from me. I go, connect, stay, lat, yeah, that's connected to me, okay, stay with, have that, so that again, connection with self, connection with other. That's kind of become my whole philosophy with everything. We heard it said at the board announcement a lot, don't interfere with my balance. So it's one of the favourites pretty much of particularly females. You can just be like, don't, if the man's leading and interfering with your balance, that's one of the things that we hear. It's probably when I grew up and I was a kid and I was in the board announcing, it was a little bit of the old-fashioned way of the man's the lead, then he goes, all right, you go here now, you go here, come here, do your toe right there, do what I want. You know, they had that mindset that that is what the lead was about. That is not what the lead is about. You need to actually follow to be the lead, because I need to be aware of my partner's requirements as to when she wants to move, if I'm putting that in male-female terms. I need to know when she wants to go. I need to know how much she needs me to pull her up or take her out there, because that's always going to be organic. She's always going to have her different things going on. The speed's going to be going at different timings. So you can see that the need, real need to stay connected and to be aware of how you impact the other, pretty much. So if I'm aware of how I impact me, then I can be aware of how I impact other. And the whole point of all of this is so that when you dance with someone, you go, oh God, that felt really good. Because I was on balance and I didn't need so much from the other person to have a good dance. Because otherwise that can lead to, I don't know, choosing specific people and not being open to developing your own dancing because you're requiring a certain aspect from a certain way that the other person is. This allows you to always practice, always get involved in your own connection to you. So as I said earlier, when you come together with somebody else, you've got more to give, which is knowing where you are and knowing how you impact something. Because as I said before, if I'm pushing and pulling to move myself and I'm not connected, that is not nice for the other person to receive. And then of course you just end up banging back with each other, which then tends to have the dance being at a very level here, where I can't do much. I just have to keep sort of in a very little place and can't expand and keep moving in that way because I have lost connection with myself in the first place. Okay, I completely lost track of where I was going because I got sidetracked. This question's good.
I was just going to ask, so say, I don't know, a follow knows her limits, knows her boundaries,
Yes.
and knows what she can give, but
Yeah.
the lead is not, I guess, reciprocating in the same manner. How do they adjust to that, or how do you make it work?
It's a very good question. I guess with that, then the focus becomes on, like, again, it always comes back down to, for me, if I put myself in that situation, I would then be still very aware of how the lead's impacting me per se. If they were being a bit forceful or something like that, I would have to then make the adjustments in myself about how I can still maintain connection whilst that's happening. And even that in itself is still a journey of how you can still maintain your own connection to you, as opposed to focusing on going, well, that person's not like that. It just makes it very limiting if you don't have you. So everything seems to come back down to that. Yes, it is, because the development of dancing, whether how much you want to develop or not, is always a development of relationship. Because every single time you step, particularly going with your dancing with a stranger, bang, 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 you're consistently shifting and shifting and shifting and shifting and have to be ready to go in a new relationship consistently all the time. So if you're focused on wanting them to be something, you've got to forget about it. Because everyone's going to be different, and focus on what you can actually bring. Even if it's a partner that you find difficult to dance with, then that's great, because that's even more opportunity for growth of yourself. To go, how can I still maintain connection? And if I maintain connection, I might actually help them feel me in a stronger capacity, and that might actually help them. So it all brings it back into partnership, relationship. You're straight away always in a relationship within partner dancing. It's showing up the relationship you have with yourself first. And always bring it back to the relationship you have with yourself first. If I'm disconnected, there's no way they can deal with me or help me. And if I'm disconnected as the follower, I cannot expect the lead to lead me. Because how can they lead you if you're not even anywhere? So that leads into what I wanted to talk about, allowing this to come into some of the styling. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, I'm going to get a lot of the information out. So within the styling of this, again, if I keep the connection to my lats, because the arms are one of the things that we want to style, is that if I keep it connected through here, then the action of my body starts to tell my arms what they need to do. So then you let your styling come from the move itself, as opposed to feeling it come from a contrived, what do I do with my arm? So what happens with it? So what I also want to let you know with the arms is that, again, lats, if I take my arms back too much, I've gone and done that again. If I shut it down too much through here, then I'm in that position. So again, broad through the collarbones and across the back. Because usually when we go from one, we go collarbones, but we push them back. Don't push them back, expand them out that way. So you can see there, that makes me feel like my expansion is that way and that way. So you can see again, there's no part of me that's become contracted by, it's all expanded, it's all maintained its connection. If I don't have that expansion, something's at a loss, and then something else compensates, and then something grabs, and you kind of see it becomes a bit of a ripple effect. So in the styling of this, it's again just showing you where everything comes from that relationship to self, including my styling. Because then if I want to dance my arm, it's going to respond to the action of the body as a natural byproduct of being connected to myself. And then that allows me to do whatever I want with it. If I'm coming through here, it allows it to respond naturally because it's connected. Okay, any questions, anybody? On anything? Okay. Please.
Feminine versus male styling.
Yes.
Any guidelines on that?
Yeah, very good question. I think the times when I've danced as the lead role, the male aspect, I know my mindset's very much focused on my partner. So my styling tends to be focused on that. But there's one of the few tricks of the trade for guys that sometimes I think the spare arm can feel a little bit, what do I do with this spare arm? One of the things I find is the lead, or the male is often that position there, with the elbow strongly out because it keeps my legs activated again. So that it's a position to go to if you are going, I don't know what to do with it. It's a great way to hold it as well as maintaining connection to self again. So everything seems to come back through there. So if I wanted to do that, I can actually now, I'll still keep my activation. I've got a strong elbow through here, I haven't lost any of my form, because that allows me to keep expanded again. Oh, I love feeling expanded in dancing. Grounded and expanded. Definitely one of the things I want to have happening.
Got the wrist fairly straight.
Yes, I do, Deb, yeah. And that's again for me about keeping connection. Because if I have that, I feel like I've lost the connection. My line, the energy flow between myself and then the energy flow between another has got and has had to make a diversion. So for me, that flatness of that wrist there allows my expansion still to keep happening, allows my lat to keep connected, so that when I have an expression with my free arm, it's not going to pull me off connection again. So it's all about that. So even if you stood like that, you still want to keep, like I'm just going to come here and manhandle you. So if you put your hands behind your back and you have it there, so we want to keep the expansion that way. See the broadness that I've created here through that and that. See, that is keeping the lats activated, and that is to maintain your connection to self, and then henceforth what you can give to other. So it goes the same thing for ladies, that I don't even think about putting my hand into a particular position. It's just not my thing. Because I remember we got told years ago, put an egg between your fingers, like this, and so then everybody starts going like this, and everyone's looking like this, and this looks really weird, because it's from here. Well, what I want to do is again keep my connection, which is expansion. The energy's flowing right out to the fingers, it's activated, but I'm letting it activate how it wants, and I'm keeping the line. As soon as I break the line, I've lost connection. So whatever your line is as well, and that might be a style that you do where you actually do that. When we're talking about partnership dancing, again, connection and flow. So it's not doing a specific thing from the mind, it's keeping my lats. It's going just extend through the fingers, to stretch the fingers, but stay connected here so that my stretch is anchored right in here. Then all of a sudden you get this look of the arm and of the hand is natural. Because I'm someone I do not like contrivance. I'm not a contrived dancer, never was. I like to feel connected and I like to feel good. And that's the way that it's felt good to me, is that I stay connected. Then I can express myself. I'm not pulling and pushing on them. I don't want to need somebody that much actually. In a partnership, I want to give and I want to have my own, so I go, I can move me. If you step into a situation with a partner and they're not your ideal flavour that you like to dance because it's different, bringing it back to that with myself, I go, I don't care, I'll do it. I'll do it. And I'll give it to you so that you can practice your stuff by not letting you push and pull me over maybe so much. So it all comes back into that, whether it's expression through here, whether you want your posture to be quite open or up, or whether you want your posture to be kind of down and in, still the same. It's still the same fundamentals, just if I wanted to do this much of my action with my legs and I wanted to keep it here, fundamentals still the same. I want more out of it, I just get more out of it. I get more out of it by practicing it, by working with it, by staying connected and going, oh, I want a bit more out of that. So that's kind of it's a rough fundamental, but I would like some questions. If anybody's got questions about applying these to some steps or...
I've got a question. When you roll back, when you go to the end of the slot, do
Yes.
you lock the knee?
No. I don't tend to do something that's of a locking or of a, it kind of makes me feel hyperextended or I'm going to go in that realm. I've never felt that I needed to contract or to jam. I think if you just let your heel go to the floor and your focus is just the heel, that you'll notice what I did here as well, my other knee came into it. So I had the action here happening and then I just released, I let the release happen through the hip or through the other knee. Because something's got to release. All the time when you're moving, something's always releasing. So when I roll back into that, just roll into it, just the legs are really straight. I mean, if we walk down the street, I don't think I'll ever have to go straight your legs, straight your legs, straight your legs, straight. So it becomes that, which is, there's no need. There's no need for the squeeze, there's no need for the squeeze and that sort of way, but there's no need for the grabbing, the contracting, the closing off and shutting down. You just can't feel anything. And it's very hard to dance with somebody else when you can't feel anything like that. So keep it natural, which is basically coming from keep it connected. So if I have that connection, it's always straight. Walking backwards is another one. What I have with this is the same thing. See how my knee at the front is a really important part of how I move? You see my flow, you'll see that as I release down into that heel, my front knee releases. Front knee releases. And same going forward. It's all about the knee for me. And it's all connected, like I've got my hip action, I've got my foot action. But having the knees constantly moving through with each other, it really allows you fantastic fluidity. Fantastic fluidity. Whether you go onto a heel or whether you go onto a foot, or if it's a toe, or go onto a foot, but if you're going to go onto a toe, it doesn't matter. That's something that you can just easily, when you walk down the street, just go, oh yeah, that's how it actually all is. It's how my body already works in that capacity. Yes, Matt.
I saw when you started doing the styling, your shoulders were rolling more, whereas I had this concept that shoulders must be level and strong and can't move them, but you were starting to roll.
Yes, and that's such a good, yes.
What's that about?
Excellent, thank you, Matt. Because that is essentially showing that I've worked a long time to maintain the connection that I've got. Now that I have that connection through the lats and through here, I can start to let these play a little bit more because they're connected. And because of we do have to have a start where you want the connection here to be quite still and quite solid first so that you can ground it. But what you want to have within that is then the allowance for movement to start to come in. But the point is of that movement is not to lose your connection. Because I've done it for so many years that I can let these move a little bit more with me now because I don't lose the connection through my lats. So that's that journey of growing into having connection and develop it so that you can get more in here without losing the connection. So that I've still got my lats activated, but I'm letting the response in my body happen because my connection is strong. And the more you have your connection and work with staying connected, the more you can get out of it. I think that's why I like it, because that means you can be on any spectrum from here to here. It's about your connection. You do it for years and you practice it more and more and more, you get more and more out of it, like anything. So that, with that allowance of the shoulders, just still keep your connection. Still let your shoulder, let the dance happen underneath it, and let the response happen underneath it, because our body's responding all the time. Our body's always responding to what's happening. So if I keep my connection just out through here, but I let the shoulders have a little bit of room to move, but just don't let them take over and disconnect your lats. So it's that fine balance of letting there be a bit of work, but if I go, oh, too much here, I've lost connection. So then I'm going, okay, we'll just maintain a little bit more there, don't let it go quite so much there. So still allowing the growth and the expression and the development to happen, but always maintaining the connection underneath it. And that way you can always develop it, or not develop it at all. It's your personal choice as to how much you do within that.
Hi. When you were talking about as a follow moving yourself,
Yes.
for me I had to really train myself to actually follow the lead,
Yes.
not just lead myself.
Yes.
Any tips for that balance between leading
Yes.
yourself but not?
Yes, quite right. Because when we do know what we're doing, we do have a habit, which is why I said it's just as hard to let yourself be led as it is to lead. We keep going back to the same aspect. Bring it always back to, if you feel like someone's not doing it and then you want to do it yourself and you kind of get in there and you just essentially kind of taking over.
Or anticipating, yeah.
Yeah, anticipating, thank you. Yes. When you're anticipating, you've stepped forward over here. So again, bring it back into going, I want to maintain connection with my own self, I want to move my own self. That brings you back into going woof, and not going anticipation over here, which again brings it back into going connection with self. Because that sense of if I'm anticipating and I know where I'm going and I know what I think is happening, I've jumped ahead. And if I've jumped ahead, I'm not right back here going connect, stay, connect, stay. Same kind of thing. I know it's probably a bit of an ethereal, but you can see it's all, I'm bringing everything today pretty much back to that same concept. And it seems to me that everything I do through the ballroom dancing world that I've learned of partnership and connection, it always just all comes back right back down to that. Because you can guarantee if you do that, it certainly allows the lead to focus on them, because we're not getting in the way of them leading us. That's where the whole thing is just as difficult to hang back, to focus on you and let them do it. And if they don't, then you haven't interfered with them learning their stuff essentially. You haven't interfered with them connecting with them because I've taken over, participated or whatever. So all that same kind of thing.
Do you have a way of visualising a connection from a different point of the body?
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes I'm trying to explain, like, you put your shoulder in your hand.
Yes.
But I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone can relate to it. But
Yes.
just wondering if there's a way that you...
Own it. Goodness days up. Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I think with that, again, with the focus of being about connection to myself, I like what you're saying with that shoulder. I still want to feel like that's the part that I'm aware of and to their body.
Yeah, no, tell us, listen. Thank you.
So could you say it again, Dick, so I can just
we were talking a lot about connection,
Yes.
and I like the hand.
Yes.
And I could see everybody, I mean, no matter what we say and try to tell people about what height the hand should be, when you said it, everybody had their hands in that sort of comfortable position.
Yes.
But we also have a lot of connection through different parts of the body.
Yes.
And trying to imagine, like, I can imagine, like, the fleshy part of the hand and that touching.
Yes.
I mean, how do you describe, I don't know, the feeling that people are, what you're aiming for when your partner has a shoulder or a hip or something?
Yes. Well, the sense I had when I did that, I wanted to show Deb pretty much that I wanted to show her where my whole self is through that again we went to the lab, didn't we? So I'm going to have my whole give her what she needs for what she needs to do next.
Yeah, I'm not holding you up.
No, you're not holding it. I'm just going, here's my body. Yeah, but if I haven't got that connected and I go like this, I'm actually trying to find Deb instead of going, here I am, Deb, you find me. And that's again another mindset aspect of it. So it becomes, yeah, you can find me now, which is very akin to the question that I had just before. Just gone. Hi, yeah, very akin to the question before, that you actually end up saying, you find me. Instead of, I can't find you, so I'm going to do it instead. Which is good. Sometimes you want to just go, alright, I need to do what I'm doing. But that's the same thing. The lead needs to be able to find you, so you need to show them where you are. Just like we had then. Because there's no grab, there was no push, there was no shove. I just went, Deb, here is my connected self. Now that I've found me, I've given you and my connected self, now you can go, oh, it really allows Deb to find her connection a lot quicker to herself so she can connect back to me. Oh, same thing, isn't it? Yes.
So, just earlier you were talking about the flow end of the feet.
Yes.
How do you alter your steps and movement depending on the size of your heel? Or do you?
Yeah, good question. I like flats, as you can see.
Me too.
Yeah. I'm always like, when I put those stretch shoes on and stuff, I'm always like, oh God. I get it though, once I start it's all good because it does keep your centre of gravity in a slightly different place. But I think with that you're going to have to again adjust your own sense of where you stand, where your weight is, where your gravity is. Step size will always be attached to heels. Usually if you've got a heel on you become a lot shorter in your steps because it's just there's less movement. I can get so much more movement out of my flats, which sometimes I probably overextend because it's so easy. So it will adjust how much action you get. If you're in higher shoes, you've got less action, pretty much. So that will happen a little bit more. It also puts your knee, the body weight to be right in the centre. Because if I take my body weight too far back, all of that sort of stuff happens. So it does, again, come back to, are you connected?
So it's similar movement, but you just shrunk it down.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about here. The whole move can be this big, it can be this big, but it's all in the same spectrum of fundamental movement. So I'll shorten it and keep it in. I'll keep it more compact. Same action. I want to pick it up, but it's shorter. I've got a slow one, same thing. I've just taken it from being this big and it's still expanded. So it's an expanded form if it's this big, or if it's this big, it's still an expanded form. I haven't gone contract to make it smaller. I've gone keep it expanded, but keep the movement per se more compact. But just there's no need to grab it. It's just an expanded movement of it. I don't know if that answers the question. I've waffled. Yes.
So, what are you looking for from a lead to show that connection?
Yes, very good question. What I like in a lead is someone that's incredibly focused on me and what I need when I need it, pretty much. So, and when I dance as the lead, that's where I go straight into a mindset of. And if you do, you actually find that you'll get what you need by focusing on your partner. Other aspect of that same thing is I don't like a push or a pull or a shove. I just want someone to present to me their connection and then follow me. And isn't that strange? It almost sounds like a paradox that I want the lead to follow me. So there's an understanding there where I want the lead. Not necessarily. What's that?
We're in agreement.
Oh! Yeah. I want, because what a leaders do is be aware of what I need when I need it. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? If I was going to lead people in whatever fashion it was, whether it's dancing or whatever, I need to know what they need when they need it so that I can lead them to it. If I don't have that understanding, I can't actually, that becomes that, oh yeah, I should go here, do what you're told, that type of understanding. Ooh, I have to, oh I have to lead, so I have to, alright, come on then. It's not that. be incredibly aware of the journey of what a lead can do to develop that is also to be aware of the impact of you on your partner. So that's another aspect of leading. What do I do? If I do this, how does it affect her? If I push too much or pull too soon, it's going to pull her off balance. So, yeah, you have to be aware of when you lead. You have to be able to follow her signals so that you can lead her when she needs it. Because that's always going to be different in every single moment with every single person. I have that answer there.
Yeah.
So it's that invitation, I'd like you to come this way, and then follow where she wants to go with it.
Absolutely, yes, because you're almost going both to and fro within it. I mean, predominantly the lead's got the mindset of focus on the follow and what the follow needs, but it is an invitation. And if they're going to follow me and I want to invite them, I've got to invite them by giving them my knowingness, my balance, my connection. That way, again, it's the invitation they can accept it or not, so to speak. It all comes back around that same thing. Any other question? Okay, anything? I don't even know what time is.
It's 10 past.
Oh,
So
cool.
we've got time. And
Yes.
it might be quite good if we had an opportunity to like actually just dance with
Yes,
each other
yes.
and focus on that
Yes.
feeling yourself
Yes.
and being there and
Yes.
having connection.
Yes, just do some steps and I'll just float around and you can ask me some specifics in relation to that.
You'll see some more that
Yes. I'm sure I could stand here and talk for 5 hours. But I've just forgotten and I'm also